There's a lot of frameworks out there, especially engineering frameworks, that give you the developer tools you need to build agents. And they're really designed for engineers. But we've taken a very stark departure from that. And the reason is really quite simple. From all of our experience over a decade in automation, the thing we've seen consistently is that automation projects fail because you lack organizational wisdom and not because you lack technology, or very often that's the case.
I'm Chris Lannon, and I'm a Chief AI Officer in the chiefaiofficer.com community. And I'm here interviewing Daniel Vassilev, who's one of the co-founders of Relevance AI. Thanks for coming, Daniel. I appreciate you spending your time with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Chris.
So can you tell us a little bit about your company and your background and how everything started?
Yeah, so I mean, just for quick context, I'm Daniel. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Relevance. Relevance today is a 50-person company. We started a few years ago, and we're currently based in Sydney, Australia, and San Francisco, US, where we have kind of our two hubs. We help organizations essentially build an AI workforce. We help them build agents to help them automate a bunch of repetitive and monotonous tasks so they can really unleash the capacity of their teams. My background personally is in software engineering. I built a company before this with millions of users across our products. I then led engineering for a scale up. And my co-founder and I, who previously also was the head of machine learning for a large insurance company, started Relevance. Really because we, one, had a very passionate kind of belief that automation is extremely important. We had seen in our own business how impactful automating was and how we could leverage more from our team, rather like especially when we're competing against bigger companies. And also it makes, at the same time, we saw like a trend of technology really shifting. And I've got a few slides I'll shift to kind of help document that, but
Sure.
that's kind of what we do as a summary. So when I talk about that trend, Chris, and this is what I think is really important. So when we raised our Series A in 2023, we published this article, Beyond Copilot. I encourage your audience to potentially have a read of that. It's available on LinkedIn and our blog. But the important thing about that is a lot of folks, we're aware of software, right? We're aware what software does. It gives us a lot of efficiency gains. We're now increasingly aware of Copilot-based assistants, AI assistants that you can kind of do input and output. And these are pretty marvelous things. At the end of the day, as kind of people who, business operators, we've seen the value of being able to increase the efficiency and productivity of our teams. However, the major limitation is that you're still tightly coupled to your headcount. So even if you've increased capacity by 5x, once that capacity fills and you get more inbound leads or you get more support tickets, whatever it might be, you now run into the challenge that you have to ultimately hire more people to fill that problem. And that isn't always the best solution because we know as teams grow, you get other challenges involved. Finding the right talent can be difficult, and the unit economics might not always work out. So when we started Relevance, we really felt there was a shift happening, and we were looking really towards this autopilot future where we really decouple that relationship between headcount and output of work and enable teams to scale their output using compute. So now they have this additional lever they can pull to increase their capacity, which is extremely important. And the second thing that we really strongly believe is who is this built for? At Relevance, we're very much built for domain experts. There's a lot of frameworks out there, especially engineering frameworks, that give you the developer tools you need to build agents. And they're really designed for engineers. But we've taken a very stark departure from that. And the reason is really quite simple. From all of our experience over a decade in automation, the thing we've seen consistently is that automation projects fail because you lack organizational wisdom and not because you lack technology, or very often that's the case. Because when you think about all of the unique workflows that are being done in your business, they tend to be locked behind the minds of domain experts rather than engineers. And so we felt like, as long as salespeople are hiring and training salespeople, and as long as marketing people are hiring and training marketing people, that's also going to extend out to agents. They're the best suited to both training the agent and managing the agent. So we really wanted a platform where we could bring those domain experts along and help them manage the AI workforce. So You'll see a lot of what we talk about and a lot of our platform is designed for helping organizations build an AI workforce, leveraging their subject matter experts. And that's pretty critical. And then within the AI workforce, there's a lot there. There's a lot of stuff going on right now in agentic AI, which is great. People are starting to get really interested, which is critical. I think every company is going to have an AI workforce in the future. But at the moment, there's a lot of, I think, noise and confusion around what specifically agentic AI is. And it can make it very difficult as a buyer to, one, understand the capabilities, two, identify a vendor of choice, and three, actually deploy that. And so what I like to typically do is help walk people through what we think of when we say AI workforce. What's the actual meaning, the entity, the outcomes that we can expect from it? So the first component are the agents. Now, for us, the entity, the agent entity, is really clearly defined as being able to perform tasks that involve dynamic decision making. So it has to be non-deterministic, right? Software, RPA, BPA, all of these tools that we've had in the past have been phenomenal, but they tend to have some very fixed rules, if this, then that. Whereas when humans are doing work in an organization, they tend to make a lot of decisions based on instructions and context. And so we think when we describe agents, we think of them as being more akin to that. They're more like employees that can make decisions dynamically based on the instructions and context they're given. And with our platform, what we try to do is make it as easy as possible to, one, get the best performance, but two, also integrate it into your workforce. So like when you hire a new employee, you don't let them email the CEO of your largest customer without approving that email. So for that reason, we've really focused and created best-in-class functionality around approvals, around escalations. And all of this is essentially packaged up to make agents fit within your organization and also perform at a really high level. Then the second component in the AI workforce are the tools themselves. This is where you can capture the more deterministic, the more repeatable workflows in your tasks. There's three kinds of tools: source of truth, which tap into your knowledge base, your databases; functional, which tap into your integrations and allow you to inject code. This is really valuable because I always like to tell prospects, when you buy Relevance, you're not adding it to your tech stack, you're having it leverage your tech stack. And so it's really important that our customers have great integrations that we've created, but also have the ability to integrate into any other platform through either API steps or code steps with a great deal of simplicity and speed. And then finally, skills-based ones. So prompts, flows that you can also inject to capture some of that domain expertise. And then the real magic happens when you combine agents and tools, because now you can really execute unique workflows. So when you're thinking about buying, agentic capabilities, something really important to understand is what's truly agentic and what's actually able to achieve the niche workflows you have. Why that's so important is kind of described here in this example. So if we have a generic agent, right, that doesn't understand your business, that doesn't have your unique workflows, and it's doing sales, it might do something very generic. It might go to LinkedIn, it might go to Apollo, it might go to Google, and then it might say, hey, congrats on X time at this company, let me sell you my product. That's a very generic piece of outreach, not very valuable. What we like to say at Relevance is you have to focus on that human quality work. What is the top rep in your company doing? What is the top employee in this role doing uniquely that helps them be so successful? And make your agents do that. And so counterintuitively, in SaaS, a lot of us know that vertical SaaS tends to be to let you go a lot deeper and a lot more specific, whereas horizontal SaaS kind of limits you in terms of specificity, but has more general use cases. Well, with the agents, it's actually kind of flipped. Horizontal platform lets you build agents that can be trained to do the custom workflows that your people do. And the only way you can train on this custom workflows if it's a horizontal platform that lets you build, whereas a vertical platform will be limited to the workflow that has been created for it. So our customers, and these two examples, are doing extremely niche workflows depending on their business. So in our first example, we've got a customer who looks at job ads, looks at how many applicants they have to first qualify the account, like a top rep in the organization does. And then go to Glassdoor, look at complaints people make during the interview process to then identify pain points that their product can solve for them. They're an ETS. And so replicating this highly custom, highly niche piece of work was extremely important because it let them scale up their activity and help their sellers have better outreach, more effective messaging, better qualification. But it also didn't dilute their quality. It helped, it didn't just do something very generic. It helped everyone from bottom to top, start having a better process. And so what we really like to focus at Relevance and encourage buyers and operators to think about is what are the niche workflows that you want to do more of? Could you go even more niche, spend even more time on it? What does that look like? Don't use agents for highly generic work. You're leaving a lot on the table if that's how you think about it. And the final piece, Chris, is the multi-agent system. This is a pretty powerful concept to understand, I think, as well, because if we try to do everything with a single agent, you actually get limited performance. If you want to maximize performance, you want to break down a job into multiple specialized roles. So then you can have every agent have a higher degree of accuracy and a higher degree of performance. Then, in order to complete a task, they can start delegating work between each other. So, in relevance, when you delegate a task to an agent, if it has a team of agents around it, it can work with them to solve the overall goal, even if it's not as specialized in that specific role. It can delegate to someone else. And when you have this back and forth, you actually get a second order benefit, which is they start checking each other's work. So you start reducing hallucinations and errors because every agent has a different context. And so, like humans, if you delegate something to me and I did it slightly incorrectly, when you review it, you have a chance to pick that up. But the most crucial aspect of a multi-agent system and having a single AI workforce platform is you get to reuse these experts in other scenarios. So you really start compounding the effect of your agents. The agent you built for prospect researching to help with inbound qualification can now be used for outbound sequencing, can then be used for lifecycle marketing, can be used for account-based marketing campaigns, and so forth. These same agents become tools in your toolbox of your virtual workforce to help you achieve greater and bigger outcomes. And that's how you can really compound the effect of your agents and what they can help to achieve and deliver for your team. So that's a quick summary. Let me know if you have any questions, Chris. Otherwise, I'm most happy to show just a little preview of what the product looks like and how customers are using it. But yeah, let me know.
Yeah. So do you typically have in this multi-agent system, do you typically have like a director agent that directs all the other agents, or do you have them interact with each other independently?
Yeah, so it's a good question. The most common way of structuring a multi-agent system is with some sort of director, like a hierarchical system where you have like a manager with sub-agents, and then those sub-agents can be managers of their own sub-agents. That's a very common paradigm and a very successful one. What we also see though is for different kinds of tasks that can change a little. And depending on the model, the reasoning capabilities of the model, you can also have different structures that also work quite well. So in our platform, we try to enable as many of those different versions. But today, the hierarchical kind of approach with a manager slash director is the most common by far.
Okay, cool. What would be, can you give us a good example of a use case for like a single agent versus a multi-agent system?
Yeah, the way I'd like to kind of encourage people to think about it is what's a single job to be done, right? Like what's something that you could write on one page as like an onboarding handbook to give to someone and they could now perform that job to be done. So you don't want to have too many different kinds of jobs to be done within a single agent because then you start introducing more complexity that could then hinder performance. So there's no kind of it's not black and white. You have to kind of get a feel for it. And typically, what I recommend is you start with with the job to be done. If it performs really well and you have more complexity to keep adding to it until you see maybe performance not be as good, then split it out. So you can do it that way. But the easy heuristic is give one agent a single job to be done. Now that doesn't mean it should be like, it shouldn't be like update CRM. That would be an action in what I would consider as a job to be done. But
Right.
an overall job to be done might be something like research an account to qualify them. And that might involve lots of different tasks, checking the CRM, checking online, checking their stack, checking some code, whatever it might be, to put together an understanding. Uh, so yeah, a full kind of job to be done that you ha would have someone sit down and perform as one single kind of flow.
So update CRM would be more like a tool, use of a tool to update the CRM versus a multiple tasks, right?
Yeah, that's right. Like updating a CRM, that's more like a single action. Your agent can perform actions, updating a CRM, checking Google, checking the internet, posting something on Slack, sending an email. These are all actions. But the overall job to be done might be, check my users that haven't had a follow-up from me for 2 weeks and send them a follow-up. That might be the job to be done. Every day at the end of the day, as a salesperson, I need to follow up with everyone. I would spend half an hour doing that. Now I'm going to have an agent do that job to be done. That can probably be a single agent. But now let's say I also want to prospect into more contacts. I want to multi-thread and I'm trying to find more leads that I can speak to in that organization. I might create another agent for the prospecting and finding those contacts. And then might create a manager agent or a director agent that will help delegate between the two and know, okay, find more contacts and then send each one an email to follow up with them. And so then you add kind of more agents to your team.
Okay. The next question I had was related to how you train these things, but I guess you can show us that in a short demo, right?
Yeah, I mean that'd be a good segue. Let me share my screen. So when we think about training and relevance, right, we like to keep everything as natural language as possible. So in relevance in the platform, you have your agents, you have your tools, and then when we go to a specific agent, what we see is the task. So right, you give agents tasks. And in this case, this agent has received a task from the CRM that there's been a new contact created. And on the right-hand side, you see the tools that it's connected to. So these are the tools that allow it to execute, work outside of its own capabilities. And then other agents. In this case, this is a very simple agent. It doesn't have any other agents that it works with. And then once it triggers here, it spins up. It starts making decisions. What do I do next based on the instructions I have and based on the context I've been given? Currently, the context it has is that there's been a new contact created and here's the contact ID. So it spins up, and the first step it decides to do is I'm going to go to the CRM and fetch the CRM contact properties and information about it so I can understand more about this contact. The second thing it decides to do as well, maybe the CRM contact doesn't have a lot of information about them. I'm going to enrich it. And in this case, I'm going to use Apollo. Then it's decided it wants to get some more firmographic data, maybe about the company, maybe about the person. So it does that too. And then it decides, okay, I've got enough information now. I'm going to update the CRM contact with that research that I've just generated. I'm going to add a note based on some hypothesis that I have about how to sell to this organization that a seller can leverage. And then I'm going to populate a sequence in Outreach with some customized messaging. So it's done this whole interaction after it's received that task. And the way this agent was configured is extremely simple. So if we go ahead and click Edit Agent, we can see that if we go to Core Instructions, this is where we provide the instructions for an agent, how to behave. Now, this is an extremely basic demo. Usually you would write about a page of content in here, some more details, but you just provide natural language instructions to your point, Chris, about how to actually train it. You then can give it certain abilities. For example, we want our agents to be able to schedule messages in the future. We might want it to escalate. And we also connect it to tools. So in this case, I've connected it to a bunch of tools that it needs to do to be able to do its job. And for each tool, I can set, do I want it to automatically run or do I want approval or do I want to maybe have some decision as to whether it needs to request approval or not? And this makes it so that I get fine-grained control over certain sensitive actions by being able to set approvals. But then also I can create a stable of tools that my agent has access to. After that, I can select any sub-agents it works with. And also our agents have the capability of recording data about each task. And so we can also tell it what kind of fields we want it to store when it completes a task. For example, maybe by industry, right? We want to run some analytics on each task. How many different industries does it come across? So I can store the industry per each task. Then you can see that surface up in your activity and analytics. So you can see what sort of work your agents are doing. So that's how you configure it. And then you can get started. You can send it triggers. Now, once you've configured the agent, right, I showed you how we configure the tools. Some tools you can use directly from our marketplace or available tools. Other tools you might want to create yourself. So for creating a CRM contact, right, we actually didn't have an integration into this particular CRM. So what we did was we created a tool which has a bunch of inputs that the agent needs to fill out, like first name, last name, email. And then it has an API step to hit this third-party system. And so all within Relevance, without requiring, deploying new code or requesting a feature from us, we're able to add a brand new integration that we can then give to our agent to leverage, as you can see here. I'll pause there.
Is setting up that integration relatively easy for someone who's not familiar with how an API works, or is that more
I
advanced?
Yeah, so for setting up integrations, I would say you would need to understand how an API works. For people who do, it's extremely simple. For people who don't, it might be a little bit more complex. But in that case, you can just use native integrations that already exist in the platform, which cover a whole variety of services and systems.
Okay. And then I noticed that you had that, is it the flow builder in there?
Yeah,
So
that's
can
right.
you can do either, I assume you can do either a task-based prompt in the core instructions or use the flow builder or both?
Yes, you can use both. So the flow builder, you can think of it as a way to create a diagram. You've gone to the meeting room, you've got a whiteboard, you've got a new employee, and you're drawing on the whiteboard, like kind of like the flow chart of this job to be done. So you can provide that as well. It's not like a fixed rules. So the agent is not just going to do like, if this, then that based on these conditions, but it's just an additional format to add some extra guardrails to encourage your agent to follow, this type of behavior. So we've got that capability as well.
Okay. And what about vector storage? Do you have that built into the platform, or would that be separate?
So we do have that built in. So if I go back to here, you'll see we have a knowledge section. So you
Mhm.
can add knowledge into relevance. You can upload a CSV, a PDF, and then you can use that knowledge with your agents. You can use it with RAG. You can use it with traditional kind of just like database queries to pull that information and then leverage it for a variety of tasks.
And then what about as far as interfaces? So like a chat interface or a voice interface, you typically integrate with other chat platforms, or do you have voice in this
Yeah,
as well?
so we do have some embed options that include
Oh,
like a
okay.
chat UI or a chat widget that you can create. So we have an ability for you to basically share this out. You can also, we do have a full featured API that you can plug in if you're building your own front end. But a lot of our customers tend to stay within our platform for running tasks, kind of automating internal processes rather than servicing up an external chat. But we do have that available, yes.
And what does an approval look like? So when you have a human in the loop doing an approval,
It's a
do
good
you have an
question.
example of that?
I don't know if I have one loaded up here. Essentially, what you get is you get each task that requires approval goes into this to review bucket. And
Oh,
then you'll
okay.
see this step here will basically be big and have like an approve or reject button, and it will show you what inputs the agent wants to give the tool. So then you can decide whether you approve the execution of that tool.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to play with this and see if I can do a demo for the group. Can you go over a little bit about what costs, um, how much it costs and how you manage all that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a very low cost self-serve option that gives you access to a decent chunk of the platform. That's a great jumping off point. And with it, you can sign up, put in the credit card, and get started. We have a free tier as well, but I will caution folks that it's quite limited in terms of usage. So upgrading is the best path forward. We've got plans from $19 a month, $200 a month, and $500 a month. So we've got all of those available. And then we also have an enterprise offering. So for folks who have really high usage needs, building out an entire AI workforce for the whole organization, they will typically buy enterprise. That basically includes all of our functionality, most advanced features. It includes much more like actions that you can take in the platform in terms of like total activity your agents can do, unlimited agents, unlimited seats, and also includes a dedicated solution engineer. So depending on the size of the organization, we've got two very good on-ramps and definitely easy enough for folks to get started with.
Okay. Um, Also, so what about people that are might be concerned about security and they want to have siloed systems? Do you have an option for that? So if I had an
Yes.
internal system and I wanted to use this internally only, is there an option for that?
Yeah, so at the moment, our public cloud is available in three regions hosted on AWS. That's in the Europe, Australia, and the US. These are all public cloud multi-tenant instances. For enterprise customers, we are launching a private cloud option, but that's very kind of high enterprise tiers. So it's
Hmm.
really designed for large enterprise customers.
Very cool. Okay. Well, I think this gives me enough to get started. Where can people, if people want to reach out to you to learn about your enterprise products or anything else, how can they get a hold of you?
So I'm available on LinkedIn. You guys can look me up, Relevance AI, Daniel Vassilev. I'm also on Twitter for those that use that. Those are two easiest channels if you want to directly reach me. If you want to speak to our team or one of our agents, you can go to relevanceai.com and you can book in a demo. It'll ask you for your use case and some information, and then one of our agents will review it, qualify it, and then either ask some more questions or book you as our team. And that's the best pathway if you're from a more commercial perspective. You get a very quick response. But if you want to reach out to me and if you have any questions, I'm available on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thanks for joining us and really appreciate your time.
Likewise, and thanks, Chris. Hope it's helpful to the community, and definitely keen to be in touch and be of help if I can.
Great. Thanks. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.